I rebuilt my entire desk setup with the help of a 3D printer. The keyboard, mouse, cable management, and even PC itself is 3D printed. This was a huge project, so let's get into it. I've had this setup for a while now. It's super messy, unorganized, and not very inspiring. So we're going to be transforming it and discovering the amazing world of 3D printing. And if it all works out, this might be one of the coolest setups I've ever built. So let's get started. The printer we're going to be using is the Bambu Lab A1. It's a really good, easy to use, beginner friendly 3D printer, and it can even print this little benchy bug, which is pretty cool. The PC case alone is going to take 36 hours to print. So while that's going, I'm going to load up my second printer and print some cool things for the rest of my setup and rate them all out of 10. Let's start off with my drawers because they're a bit of a mess. For the longest time, I didn't have a bin in this room, so it would often be shoved in these drawers. Look, that one doesn't even close properly. Now I know everyone does this when they get a 3D printer, but there are loads of these useful drawer organizers. You basically print these little trays that you stuff into your drawer, which adds compartments to store and organize stuff easier. I printed these in white to match my drawers, and they make everything look so much better. Everything now has a place. And to take it a step further, I also printed these cable clips to stop cables getting tangled and stopping my drawers from closing. Just look how much better it looks. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. Very useful prints. The next thing I decided to print was a headphone hook because I wanted somewhere to put my headphones. I printed this desk clamp one and it was pretty easy to put together and print, and it just clips onto the side of your desk and boom, there you go, one headphone hook. Pretty boring but very useful. 5 out of 10. I also printed this lampshade, which is part of the Maker World lamp kit. There are loads of designs to choose from, but I chose this one and got printing. The print took about 3 hours to do, and despite some issues with the time lapse, it came out alright. The LED lamp kit is simply just a USB powered light. Then it was just a case of assembling it, which is pretty easy, just screws into place and let there be light. I think it came out pretty well and it looks really clean on my desk, 7 out of 10. So far, not the most interesting prints, but the next one's a game changer. But before that, let's see how our PC case is getting on. Almost a quarter of the way through. This is going to be a while. Next, it's time to venture into something that I've avoided and tried to put off for as long as possible. And that is my cable management. So for the longest time, cable management has been something that I've done, but recently I just can't be bothered with it. I'm always adding and taking away stuff from my PC. And when you use cable ties and Fort Knoxify your cable management, it can get really difficult to take away and add new stuff to it. So much so that my cable management system has collapsed recently, so I've just resorted to hiding it with this black board here. But what if we take it away? My goodness. This is a bit of a mess, to be honest. I mean, I've tried, but we can do a whole lot better than this cable management using the help of 3D printing. Let me show you how. So I've been on the internet and I've found this. It's called Underwear by Hands On Katie, and it is the perfect cable management system for my desk. This basically allows you to add and remove cable channels as and when you want, and it can basically make your cable management system incredibly modular, which is exactly what I want. So it all starts off with this multi-board grid system. So I'm going to print off a couple of these. You stick that to the underside of your desk and then you print off all the various cable channels. And there's so many modules and accessories for this kit, which is just brilliant. So first of all, we're going to have to print one of these multi-board grids. Right, so I think we're in luck here because what I'm going to be doing is printing the 9x9 multi-board, which is about the size of this print bed for the Bambu Lab A1, 256 by 256 millimeters. And if we just use it and just line it up on our desk where we're going to have them, so that's 1, 2, 3. So I think we can get away with just printing 3, which is much easier considering they're going to take about 5-6 hours each. Right, I better stop wasting time because we've got lots of printing to do. So I got printing the multi-board 9x9 tiles using my Bambu Lab A1. Now luckily it wasn't 5 to 6 hours, it was about 3.5 hours. You can also set the Bambu Lab A1 to a ludicrous mode, which allows you to print in extreme speeds, which is exactly what I wanted to try and get this done as quickly as possible. Alright, so it's the next day and we have got loads of multi-boards. I've printed off about 4 of them and they're pretty impressive. They're quite strong considering I printed them from PLA. And I've also got some of these parts as well, which are basically like hexagons, and they snap into the multi-board grids. And then we can connect these to cable channels. We can connect these to all kinds of accessories thanks to the underwear system, and they just snap into place. Right, so I think the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna clear out under the desk, unplug everything, and take it from there. So I got to work clearing out the space. I did this by moving all the rubbish that was hidden behind this blackboard away. I hoovered up because there was just so much mess there. And my tactic for this was basically just to untangle all the cables I possibly could and just leave them hanging, just so that I can organize them a lot easier once the multi-board grid is screwed into place. Speaking of that, I got to that, put my safety goggles on and started drilling holes in my desk to screw the multi-board panels into place. This actually went a lot easier than I was expecting. Right, finally we've got the... Get out of the way. Finally, we have got the multi-board installed under our desk, and that was actually quite easy to do. So one of the things that I've printed off is one of these. Now what this does is it goes on your power strip, it goes on either end, and then it basically allows you to snap the power strip into place. Snap. And there it is. So I got sticking all of my power strips, USB hubs, and even my network switch to the multi-board grid system. And I must say, it was starting to look really good. Right, so our cable channels have finished printing. This is what they look like. So let's say I want to put it here. Boom, there we go. That is in, that is solid. And then you just put this cable tray cover over the top. And there it is, one cable channel stuck to the bottom of our desk. But yeah, I've got lots more of these cable channels to print, so let's get printing and let's get organising. This underwear cable management is literally like the modern equivalent of Lego, so I got to work organising under my desk, and it was actually fun rather than a chore. There's loads of different accessories and stuff that you can attach to the multi-board, such as cable hooks, cable winders, power strip connectors. There's just so much out there, and I actually quite enjoyed doing this. The only thing you do need to make sure of is that you get the hexagon the right way round, because otherwise it won't snap into place properly. And also on a power strip of 4 plug sockets, you do actually end up losing one because of the power strip holder, which is a little bit annoying. But now this is the finished product, and I think my cable management looks pretty good. It gets all the cables off the floor, you can barely see it, and it's super easy to add and take away new cables if I ever need to do that in the future. Very good print. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Now that I've organised all my cables, one thing that is annoying is that I've still got a wired mouse. But luckily we can 3D print a wireless mouse using yet another MakerWorld kit. The mouse actually came out looking really good. It printed in no time at all, and I decided to use the standard design just because I thought it looked kind of cool. Then you've got to print the internal components as well, such as the bottom cover. Once I had all the parts, it was time to get building. So building was a little bit complicated, but as long as you watch the YouTube video and follow everything that they do, it's fairly easy to put together. It's a battery powered wireless mouse with a USB dongle, battery powered with a AAA battery, and it actually came out looking and working pretty well. Right, how's our PC case doing? Okay, about halfway through. I'd say one more print and we should be done. Now that our 3D printed mouse was done, my keyboard was looking a little bit boring next to it. So I decided to spruce it up a bit with some 3D printed keycaps. Now the Bambu Lab A1 does actually support multicolour printing thanks to its automatic material system. For my keycaps, I'm printing the letters in white, but the actual keycaps are going to be blue to match my mouse. And it supports changing of colours mid-print really easily. So once the letters were done, it just printed the keycaps over the top and they came out looking really good. And it's taken my keyboard from a boring grey looking Keytron keyboard to a really nice custom keyboard which matches my mouse perfectly. It really is a nice vibe. I'm going to give these a 7 out of 10. As night set in for the final night of the PC case print, I waved goodbye to the PC case, hoping that it would be done within the early hours of the morning and I'd wake up to a fully complete PC case. The next morning, it was a really lovely day, so I went straight to my printer to check out my new PC case. But you're not going to believe what I found. I walked in and I found it on the floor.
Oh my god. No. It fell off. It fell off and spaghettied everywhere.
This was my new PC case. I honestly have no idea what happened, but the final couple of layers just completely failed. To this day, I still have no idea what happened, but if I'm going to take a guess, as you can see here with the printer printing, it was wobbling and it was rocking quite a lot. So I'm guessing overnight it must have just fallen off. However, there was no way I was going to start another 36-hour print to print another case. So I just had to make do with what I had, break off the supports, and see what we were working with. Since the top of the case hadn't printed very well, it meant that the top layer was quite rough. So I sanded it down with a bit of sandpaper and got printing the two side panels. Now it was just time to prepare the case, so I added a power button and the front USB ports. However, there was nothing for the top panel to screw into, so I printed off some right angle brackets, drilled a hole in them, and put the brass inserts in all of the holes of the case. And then finally, it was ready to do the PC build. So for this PC build, I'm going to be using some old parts from an old computer that I bought from eBay. If you don't know the story, basically I bought what I thought was a fast gaming PC off eBay, but when I looked inside, it turned out to be a complete scam. So in the end, I ended up upgrading it with a mini ITX motherboard combo, but it just looks really weird and out of place in this massive case. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our 3D printed case to make this into a really cool PC. But there was a problem. My graphics card was just too big for the PC case and wouldn't fit. Same with my motherboard. Although it did go in, the CPU cooler was just way too tall and I wouldn't be able to put the side panel on. And also, I couldn't find a suitable power supply that would actually fit in the case and sit flush with all the screw holes. Luckily, I'm a bit of a PC parts collector, so I opened up my PC parts drawer and found some other power supplies and CPU coolers I can use. And I also dug around and found a smaller graphics card, an RX 560 from MSI. All that was left to do was change the cooler for the stock Intel cooler, which I don't really like, but it will just have to do for this build. I just needed to re-thermal paste the CPU, cue the discussion in the comments about the amount of thermal paste I've used, and then it was a very simple case of just building the PC. This is probably one of the easiest parts of this entire project because so far it's been a bit of a disaster, but luckily the PC build went really smoothly and I had it done in no time. All that was left to do was the wiring and screwing everything in, and I even added an SSD at the back because this computer's so old it doesn't even have an M.2 slot. I even managed to add a 120mm fan at the front, which was quite good considering the space. And with everything done, it was time for the first switch on. Except when I turned it on, nothing happened. Turns out I just plugged the power button in wrong.
Yes.
And before I knew it, my 3D printed PC sprung into life. All that was left to do was put the side panels on, and here it is, my 3D printed PC made from old PC parts. Now it's not quite a mini PC or a small form factor PC, and that's because I'm using an ATX power supply. So I went with this PC case because I knew it would fit all of my components in. The case is printed in PETG and it looks a lot better than my old one for sure. The specs of my 3D printed PC is an i5-4460 CPU, 8GB of DDR3 RAM, 512GB of storage, and an RX 560 4GB. And now all that was left to do was bring everything together, sort out my desk, and here it is, the final result, my 3D printed gaming setup. Compared to my last setup, which was just boring and uninspiring, we've completely transformed it into a really cool space. We've taken what is just a cheap PC and made it 100 times cooler, along with our 3D printed keyboard, mouse, lamp, cable management system. Everything's just come together so well. I don't know, maybe in the future I might upgrade this computer or even 3D print an even smaller computer. But that's it for this video. If you want to check out more, click on your screen right now. Thank you for watching and I'll see you soon.